The proposition Priya Sharma wiped condensation from her glasses as she emerged from the steamy kitchen of Spice Avenue. Another 12-hour shift complete, her feet ached, and the burn on her forearm stung. No, but none of that mattered compared to the letter crumpled in her pocket. The third rejection from culinary school scholarship committees this month. Chef Batra wants to see you, Nikhil, the sous chef called as she untied her apron. Priya's stomach nodded. Her mentor rarely requested private conversations unless something was wrong. She found him in his small office, shoulders hunched over paperwork. "You're exceptional, Priya," he said, without looking up. "But we both know you're wasting your talents here. When will you reapply to the institute?" "The application fee alone is half my rent," she admitted. "And even with a partial scholarship, the remaining tuition would take years to pay off." Chef Batra sighed. "Talent without opportunity is the greatest tragedy in our industry." After their conversation, Priya trudged toward the subway, calculations spinning in her head. At this rate, she'd be 35 before she could afford proper culinary training. The weight of her dreams felt heavier with each step. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate. "Emergency. Come home now." 20 minutes later, Priya burst through their apartment door to find Aditi casually painting her nails. "This was your emergency?" Priya collapsed onto their worn sofa. "The emergency is that solution to all your problems is sitting right there." Aditi gestured toward a man Priya hadn't noticed, standing awkwardly by their kitchen counter. He was tall, with sharp features softened by tired eyes. His expensive watch contrasted with his rumpled button-down shirt. "Rohan Malhotra." He extended his hand. "Aditi's cousin." "I apologize for the dramatic introduction." "He needs a wife," Aditi announced, temporarily. "Excuse me?" Priya blinked. Rohan pinched the bridge of his nose. "My visa status is complicated. My tech company is expanding, but there's a processing delay. Marriage to a citizen would expedite things." "And you thought I'd volunteer?" Priya's voice rose. "He'll pay off your culinary school tuition," Aditi interjected. "All of it." The room went silent. Priya stared at the condensation dripping down. Her forgotten glass of water? "It would be a business arrangement," Rohan clarified. 1 year minimum, possibly 2. "We maintain appearances, live together for credibility, then divorce amicably once my permanent residency is secured." "And if immigration officials investigate?" Priya asked. "We'll have documentation, shared lease, joint accounts, photographs." "Nothing illegal, just ... accelerated." Priya's mind raced. Complete culinary school without debt. Finally pursue her dream of opening a fusion restaurant blending her Indian heritage with modern techniques. No more double shifts or burn scars from rushing. "I have conditions," she heard herself say. "I need everything in writing. My name stays on the lease. I want cooking space, a real kitchen, not a kitchenette." Rohan's expression shifted from surprise to respect, of course. "One more thing," Priya added. "No expectations beyond the agreement." "This is strictly business." "Absolutely," he nodded. "My life is complicated enough without romantic entanglements." 3 weeks later, Priya stood in a simple cream dress at City Hall, exchanging vows with a virtual stranger. Rohan slipped a modest band on her finger, practical, like their arrangement. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant announced. Their eyes met in momentary panic before Rohan leaned forward for the briefest contact of lips, formal, perfunctory. Yet something unexpected flickered in Priya's chest, a spark where there should have been nothing. She dismissed it immediately. It was a transaction, not a romance. She had sacrificed neither her independence nor her heart. Merely signed a contract with clear terms and boundaries. As they exited into the bright afternoon, Priya's new husband held the door. "Ready to begin our not-quite-married life?" Nodded, clutching her enrollment confirmation for the Culinary Institute. "As ready as I'll ever be." Neither noticed Aditi's knowing smile as she snapped their first photo as a couple, the spring light casting a glow that made their practical arrangement look remarkably like the beginning of something real. The charade the apartment Rohan had leased for them sat on the 23rd floor of a sleek high-rise. all glass and steel with views that stretched across the city skyline. Priya stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching rain trace patterns down the glass while Rohan worked late again. It's just for show, she reminded herself, fingers absently twisting the wedding band. 3 months into their arrangement, and she still felt like an imposter in this space. The sound of keys in the door made her straighten her posture. Rohan entered, raindrops glistening in his dark hair, tie loosened around his neck. "Sorry, I'm late," he said, setting down his laptop bag. "Board meeting ran over?" "I saved you dinner," Priya replied, gesturing to the covered plate in the kitchen. "Nothing fancy, just some butter chicken and naan." Rohan's expression brightened. "You didn't have to cook." "I needed to practice a recipe for class tomorrow," she shrugged. Though they both knew it wasn't on her syllabus, these small domestic rituals had developed organically. Priya cooking, Rohan handling the dishes, sharing meals when their schedules. Aligned, practical roommate behavior, she told herself, nothing more. Rohan took a bite and closed his eyes. "This is incredible. It's my grandmother's recipe," she said, unable to hide her pleasure at his reaction. "The secret is kasuri methi, added at the end." "My mother would be impressed," he said, then froze. "Speaking of which, ... Priya felt her stomach drop. "What?" "She called today. They're visiting next weekend." Panic flashed across Priya's face. "Your parents here?" "I've been avoiding this for months, but they're suspicious why they haven't met my wife." He rubbed his temples. "We need to make this convincing." The week that followed was a crash course in creating the illusion of marital intimacy. Rohan's parents, traditional, wealthy, and scrutinizing, would expect certain dynamics. "Favorite color?" Rohan quizzed as they prepared dinner. "Deep purple," Priya answered, chopping onions. "Yours is navy blue, you wear it constantly." "First pet, a turtle named Einstein. You're allergic to cats but love dogs." They exchanged childhood stories. Embarrassing moments, political views, and sleep habits. With each revelation, Priya felt the strange sensation of knowing someone deeply without truly knowing them at all. The night before his parents' arrival, Rohan found Priya staring at their bedroom, the one they'd furnished for show, but that Rohan never used, sleeping instead on the office pullout. "We should practice," he said quietly. "Practice what?" "Being comfortable together." His usual confidence wavered. "My mother will notice if we're awkward about physical contact." Hesitantly, he placed his hand on the small of her baka, gesture couples made thoughtlessly. Priya tensed, then consciously relaxed into his touch. "Like this?" she asked, leaning slightly against his shoulder. "Yes," he said, voice strangely hoarse. "And maybe ... His arm slipped around her waist. They stood there, the line between pretense and reality blurring dangerously, until Priya stepped away. "I think we'll be convincing enough." Mr. and Mrs. Malhotra arrived bearing gifts and expectations. His mother inspected every inch of their apartment, while his father questioned Rohan about business developments. Priya prepared an elaborate meal. Grateful for the distraction of cooking, so traditional, Mrs. Malhotra commented, watching Priya roll out dough for Parathas. "Rohan said you met at a fundraiser." "Yes," Priya smiled, reciting their rehearsed story. He donated to the Culinary Scholarship Foundation. "We started talking about regional cuisine variations." "Fascinating," Mrs. Malhotra said, clearly uninterested. "And when do you plan to give up this cooking school hobby to start a family?" Priya's hands stilled. She and Rohan hadn't prepared for this line of questioning before she could respond. Rohan appeared beside her, slipping an arm around her waist. "Mom, Priya's career is important to both of us. We're focusing on that before considering children." The protective note in his voice sounded genuine enough that Priya glanced up in surprise. The warmth in his eyes as he looked at her didn't seem rehearsed at all. That night, sharing their bed for appearance's sake, they lay facing opposite walls, a careful distance between them. "Thank you, Priya," whispered into the darkness. "For what you said about my career, I meant it," Rohan replied, his voice low. "You're extraordinarily talented." He had come to her final exam presentation the previous weeks, something neither of them had planned. Something beyond their agreement. She'd looked up from her plating to find him in the audience, his presence inexplicably steadying her nerves.
Your
Parents hate me, she sighed. They don't hate you. They just don't understand why I'd marry someone without family connections or business advantages. He shifted to face her. But I like that you're exactly who you appear to be. No hidden agendas. Except for our entire marriage, Priya thought, but didn't say, in the morning. They moved around each other with new awareness, performing domestic harmony for his parents' benefit. Rohan's hand lingered on her shoulder as she poured coffee. Priya straightened his collar without thinking. After his parents finally departed, they stood in their suddenly quiet apartment, the ghost of their performance hanging between them. We were convincing, Rohan said, loosening his tie. Agreed, gathering dishes, quite the charade. But as she scrubbed pots with unnecessary vigor, Priya wondered which was the greater pretense, now their marriage of convenience, or their insistence that nothing was changing between them. The awakening? Absolutely not, Priya said, folding sweaters into her weekend bag. I can't just abandon my externship at Aroma to play happy couple at your corporate retreat. Rohan leaned against the doorframe of her bedroom. These investors could double our company valuation. They're traditional family men who value stability and business partners. So, hire an actress, she retorted, zipping the bag with finality. They've already seen our wedding photos on my desk. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she now recognized as stress. Chef Daniels will understand. He's given me a rare opportunity to develop the weekend specials menu, Priya argued, though her resolve was weakening at Rohan's obvious distress. 3 days, Rohan said. The Lakeside Lodge has an acclaimed kitchen. Already asked they'd welcome your input for their Saturday dinner service. Priya narrowed her eyes. You're manipulating me? His lips twitched. Is it working? Despite herself, she smiled. I'll call Chef Daniels. The mountain drive took them through winding roads flush with early autumn colors. Rohan drove while Priya controlled the music, another unspoken rhythm they'd developed when he hummed along. To her classical Tamil playlist, she pretended not to notice. Tell me about these investors, she said, switching to business mode. What will convince them? The Hashimoto brothers built their empire on family values. Tradition, loyalty, generational thinking. He glanced at her. They respect my technical vision, but worry about my commitment to long-term stability. So I'm proof you're settling down, Priya concluded. You're proof I'm not just a workaholic with an exit strategy, he corrected, that I understand partnership. The irony hung between them. The lodge exceeded Priya's expectations, rustic luxury with stone fireplaces and timber beams. They're sweet. Featured a canopy bed and panoramic forest views. One bed. I'll take the sofa, Rohan said immediately. Don't be ridiculous. The bed's enormous. Priya set down her bag. We're both adults. That evening, the Hashimoto brothers and their wives joined them for dinner. Priya found herself genuinely engaged in conversation with Kenji Hashimoto's wife, Midori, a former chef turned restaurant investor. Your husband tells us you're developing fusion concepts, Midori said. I'd love to hear more, as Priya described. Her vision for blending traditional Indian techniques with Japanese flavor profiles. She felt Rohan watching her. When she met his gaze, the pride in his eyes seemed far from performative. Later, as couples split off for after-dinner drinks, Takashi Hashimoto cornered Rohan on the terrace. How did a workaholic like you convince such a talented woman to marry? You? He asked bluntly. Rohan's practiced response faded as he watched Priya laughing with the others through the window. I got very lucky, he said simply. She saw something in me worth taking a chance on. The weekend unfolded in a strange dreamscape of authenticity wrapped in pretense. They hiked mountain trails, Rohan helping Priya over rocky passages. They attended investment meetings where she charmed potential partners with her genuine enthusiasm for Rohan's vision. Saturday night, the lodge chef invited Priya into the kitchen, where she created a special dessert course that earned applause. From the dining room, when she emerged, flushed with success, Rohan pulled her into a congratulatory embrace that lasted several heartbeats too long. After dinner, a local band played in the lodge's great room. Couples swayed on the improvised dance floor. Kenji nodded meaningfully toward Priya. We should probably... Rohan gestured to the dance floor. For appearances, Priya agreed, letting him lead her into his arms. His hand rested lightly on her waist, hers on his shoulder, maintaining proper distance. But as the music continued, the space between them gradually disappeared. Priya's head found its way to his chest, where she could hear his heartbeat accelerating. "They're not even watching anymore," she murmured, not moving away. Replied, his chin resting against her hair. That night, despite the king-sized bed, they somehow woke tangled together. Priya's head on Rohan's chest, his arm curved protectively around her. They separated hastily, either acknowledging what was becoming increasingly difficult to deny. On the drive home, conversation flowed until Rohan suddenly pulled over at a scenic overlook. "What's wrong?" Priya asked. "I need to ask you something," he said, staring straight ahead. At this weekend, how much was real? The question hung between them, dangerous and essential. Priya looked out at the valley below, heart pounding. "I don't know anymore," she admitted. "Does that scare you?" He turned to her, vulnerability naked in his expression. "Yes," he said, "but not as much as going back to pretending." Neither moved, standing at the precipice of something neither had anticipated. Their carefully constructed arrangement was transforming into something without clear boundaries or expectations, something that looked alarmingly like genuine feeling. "We should get back," Priya finally said, unable to face the implications. "I have early class tomorrow," Rohan nodded, restarting the car. But as they continued homeward, his hand found hers across the console, and she didn't pull away. The fracture of the email arrived on a Tuesday morning while Priya was experimenting with cardamom-infused pastry cream in their kitchen. Subject line, "Congratulations from Fusion Culinary Institute, Paris." Her hands trembled as she read the acceptance letter. The prestigious 6-month apprenticeship program had selected her application from hundreds of candidates. The opportunity she'd dreamed about since she first picked up a chef's knife in Paris, 6,000 miles away from the life she'd built here. From Rohan, she closed the laptop and continued whisking, mind racing. Her arrangement had never accounted for this possibility. After 8 months of marriage, the lines had blurred beyond recognition. Yet neither had been brave enough to acknowledge the shift. They cooked together most evenings, held hands during movies. Last week, his lips had brushed her forehead when he thought she was sleeping. But without words to define it, these moments existed in limbo. That same evening, Rohan returned home unusually early, his expression grim. "What happened?" Priya asked, abandoning the dinner preparations. "The Hashimoto investment fell through," he said, loosening his tie with uncharacteristic aggression. "You're backing our competitor instead." "But they loved your presentation," Priya protested. Midori said, "Apparently our competitor offered controlling interest." His jaw tightened. "Without this round of funding, we'll have to lay off half the development team." Priya poured him a drink. There must be alternatives. Terrible. Once, he accepted the glass. "We could seek venture capital, but they'd demand faster returns than our technology can realistically deliver." She sat beside him, her own news suddenly impossible to share. "You'll figure something out. You always do." His phone buzzed with another crisis, and Priya watched him retreat into work mode. Building mental walls she once would have respected. As part of their arrangement, now they felt like personal rejection. Days passed. Rohan worked increasingly late hours, missing dinners, responding to her texts with terse replies. Priya's acceptance deadline loomed, requiring an answer within 2 weeks. After yet another night of Rohan coming home past midnight, Priya confronted him in the kitchen. "We need to talk," she said, pushing a cup of tea toward him. "Can it wait until morning? I'm exhausted." He looked at shadows beneath his eyes, shoulders bowed. "I've been offered an apprenticeship in Paris," she said anyway.
Yes.
"The Fusion Culinary Institute." His expression froze. That's the program you talked about. It's the one that launched Chef Renoir's career?" "Yes. When would you leave?" 3 weeks, she said quietly. Something flashed in his eyes, paint, quickly masked. "You should accept immediately. It's an incredible opportunity." His calm response felt like a slap. "That's it? Good luck in Paris? What did you expect me to say, Priya?" Frustration edged his voice. "We have an agreement. Your career advancement was always part of the deal." "The deal," she repeated. "Right? Just business, isn't it?" he challenged. You got your culinary degree? I'm securing my visa status. The arrangement is working exactly as planned. Priya stood, anger and hurt combusting, and the rest of it. The dinners, the conversations, waking up together after the retreat. Was that just enhanced performance for immigration benefits? You're the one who insisted on boundaries, he retorted. From day one, strictly business, remember? Because I was afraid. The admission burst from her. Afraid of being vulnerable with someone who saw me as a convenient solution to a problem. They stared at each other, months of unspoken truths hovering between them. My company's imploding, Rohan finally said, voice low. Everything I've built. Is at risk? I can't think about anything else right now. Not even us? Priya asked. There is no us, Priya. That's the point. The words sounded rehearsed, as if he'd been repeating them to himself. There's a contract with an expiration date. She stepped back, his words landing like physical blows. I see. I didn't mean no, you've made yourself perfectly clear. She gathered her composure. I'll accept the Paris position. When I return, we can proceed with divorce as planned. That night, Priya moved her things to the guest bedroom. Over the next week, they orbited each other cautiously, exchanging only necessary information. She sent her acceptance to Paris. He secured emergency funding at punishing terms. The distance between them expanded into a chasm. Neither knew how to cross. 3 days before her scheduled departure, Priya returned from class to find Rohan sitting. At their dining table, a stack of papers before him. What's this? She asked, setting down her keys. Divorce papers, he said, without meeting her eyes. I thought we should get started before you leave. Priya stared at the documents. Reality. Crashing down, this was always the plan, the clean, practical conclusion to their arrangement. So why did it feel like her heart was being torn from her chest? I see, she managed. Very efficient. I've outlined a fair settlement, he continued, voice detached and professional. The original payment plus additional compensation for the inconvenience. Inconvenience, she repeated hollowly. Is that what I've been to you? Finally, he looked up, his expression unreadable. You know that's not true, do I? Because it seems like you're awfully eager to end this. You're leaving. Priya, he said, a crack in his composure. What would you have me do? Would beg you to stay when you have the chance of a lifetime waiting? I would have you be honest, she said. Just once, about what you actually feel. The silence stretched between them, filled with everything they'd left. Unspoken for months. It doesn't matter what I feel, he finally said. It never did. This was always temporary. Priya picked up her purse, dignity the only shield she had left. I'll have my lawyer review these. She walked toward the door then. Paused. You know what the saddest part is? We created this elaborate fake marriage to convince everyone else, but the only people we ended up fooling were ourselves. She closed the door behind her, tears finally falling as she reached the elevator. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd entered this arrangement to pursue her dreams without financial burden. Now, with those dreams within reach, the cost felt impossibly high. The Resolution Paris embraced Priya with cobblestone streets and kitchen, classrooms filled with stainless steel and possibility. She threw herself into 16-hour days, perfecting techniques under acclaimed chefs who praised her innovative approaches. At night, alone in her tiny apartment, she fought the urge to check her phone for messages from home. From him, the divorce papers remained unsigned in her drawer. A technicality, she told herself. Nothing more than administrative procrastination. 4 months into her program, Priya's fusion dessert concept won the Institute's innovation competition. As fellow students celebrated around her, she found herself scanning the crowd, expecting to see Rohan's proud smile, the one he'd worn when she aced her final examination back home. That night. The prodigal chef returns my call, her friend teased. Paris must be losing its charm. How is he? Priya asked, unable to maintain pretense. Aditi's tone softened. Working too much, looking miserable. The usual? His company? Covering? From what I hear, he secured some Japanese investment after all, good Priya said, ignoring the tightness in her chest. That's good. He asks about you. Adi added carefully, never directly, but he finds ways to steer conversations toward your program. Priya closed her eyes. I haven't signed the papers, and neither has he. 2 weeks later, preparing for the program's culminating exhibition, Priya received an unexpected email from Midori Hashimoto. The restaurateur was visiting Paris and requested a meeting to discuss potential opportunities. They met at a cafe near the Seine. Midori, elegant and understated Parisian chic, came directly to the point. I'm opening a restaurant in Singapore, focusing on Indo-Japanese fusion. I want you as head chef. Priya nearly dropped her espresso. That's I'm honored, but I'm still completing my training. The position would wait for your graduation, Midori assured her. But there's something else you should know. She hesitated. The restaurant is part of a larger development by Malhotra Tech. Your husband's company? Priya's heart stuttered. Ex-husband? Almost Midori raised an eyebrow. Interesting. He didn't mention divorce when he pitched your culinary vision as perfect for our concept. What? Rohan has been remarkably persistent about this project. He convinced my husband to reconsider investment in his company by proposing this. Partnership technology integrated with culinary innovation. She studied Priya carefully. He speaks of your talent with extraordinary conviction. That night, Priya couldn't sleep. Rohan had created an opportunity that combined her culinary dreams with his business, building a bridge across continents. Why would he do that if he truly wanted their relationship to end? Her exhibition presentation was 2 days away. The culmination of everything she'd worked toward, and yet suddenly it felt incomplete. On impulse, she sent a text. My final presentation is Saturday, 8 p.m. Paris time. She didn't expect a response. Didn't expect anything. Saturday arrived in a flurry of preparation. Priya's station featured her signature disha reinvention of classic garam masala in a Japanese kaiseki framework. As judges and industry leaders filed in, she scanned the crowd once before forcing herself to focus. He wasn't there, of course. He wasn't. She presented with passionate precision, explaining flavor combinations and technique innovations. The judges nodded appreciatively. When the final course was served, applause filled the room, as people mingled afterward, offering congratulations. Priya felt a presence behind her, a familiar cologne, a voice she'd tried and failed to forget. The cardamom was inspired, Rohan said quietly. She turned slowly, certain she was imagining him. But there he stood, jet-lagged and beautiful in a slightly rumpled suit, a small box. In his hands. You came, she whispered. I should have come months ago. His eyes held hers, unguarded at last. Yes, I should never have let you leave. Around them, the crowd continued celebrating, oblivious to the reunion unfolding in their midst. The Singapore project, Priya began, is real, he finished, but that's not why I'm here. He led her to a quieter corner of the room. I've been telling myself our arrangement was just business for so long that I almost believed it. Then you left and nothing made sense anymore. Pushed me away, she reminded him. I was terrified, he admitted. My company was failing, and I couldn't bear to be another burden keeping you from your dreams. So you created a dream that could include us both? A ghost of his old smile appeared. I'm nothing if not solution-oriented. And the divorce papers? Still unsigned, he said. Like mine? He opened the small box he'd been holding. Key inside wasn't a ring, but a key. What's this? She asked. A choice, he said. New apartment in Singapore, near your potential restaurant. Also near my company's new international office. I'm not asking you to give up Paris or your career. I'm asking if we could build something real together, not out of convenience. But because these past months have shown me that a life without you isn't the life I want. Priya took the key, feeling its weight. That sounds suspiciously like a real marriage proposal. It is, he acknowledged. Though I thought I'd save the actual kneeling for when you've had time to consider whether you can forgive me. Priya looked at the man before her, no longer the practical stranger she'd married for convenience, but someone whose absence had left a palpable void in her life. I have terms, she said, echoing their first agreement. Name them. No more pretending. No more contracts or arrangements. Just truth, even when it's difficult. Done, he said immediately. And I want a real kitchen. In Singapore, or wherever we end up. His smile widened, already included in the floor plan. One more condition, she said, stepping closer. This time, I want a real wedding. Small but real, with vows we actually mean. Waist, pulling her toward him in a gesture that had long since transformed from performance to necessity. I think we can negotiate those terms, he murmured against her hair. Later that night, they walked along the Seine, making plans that had nothing to do with convenience and everything to do with choice. Priya knew the path ahead wouldn't be simple real. Relationships rarely were. But as Rohan's fingers intertwined with hers, she recognized that the most authentic flavor combinations were often the most complex, expected elements creating something stronger and more nuanced than either could achieve alone. Their paper. Marriage had become something neither had anticipated, a love story written not in contracts, but in the language of shared meals, honest conversations, and the courage to choose each other day after day across oceans and uncertainties. This time was nothing convenient about it at all.